Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last episode we were asked to provide evidence as to Enoch Drebber's motive for wanting Odie Asman dead, as we presented a signature link between the contract and the picture in the 10-year-old article depicting Drebber seeing the professor's rise, which led to the young scientist being outed as a gravedigger, ending his budding scientific career without bringing this to light, nearly making him confess. However, at that moment, Courtney Sithe admitted to having been coerced into going along with Drebber's scheme, proving Professor Hairbrain to be innocent. However, we couldn't let the trial end there, wanting to seek the absolute truth, as we now continue to try and understand the Waxwork Plot. I don't know. Fine, if that's what you want. But there's really no need to point. The prosecution concurs. Nice pointing.
Very well. You will serve to amend your testimony now, witness.
If you wish, my lord. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged a screwdriver into the chest. How's that edited?
Hold it!
So it was you who stabbed Asman with this? Yes, far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required. What a welcome change. The victim died instantly from a snapped neck. All I did was carry out the instructions I'd been given. As unflinchingly as ever, no doubt. I imagine you didn't bat an eyelid when you drove the weapon into his body. There was no need to bat my eyelids. And what else did you do to twist the facts? Remind the court, why don't you? If you wish. I enlisted the help of the entire... Well, okay, that we're getting past the statement we've added as an important statement that actually had a thing. I'm not sure what I'm doing exactly. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged a screwdriver into the chest, but it would have been in the cage too. It wouldn't have been that easy. It did seem to explore it a bit. I mean, we're obviously into something regarding the autopsy report. Wow, I have no clue. Like, definitively what to do. It's going to be one of these three things that I'm going to be presenting most likely to this statement. Because, of course, we only have things like after the fact, after the doctor's scene. So the cage itself? Where's the, like, the opening... Like, this is the one that fell with him in it. It's really hard to get in there to, like, stab a guy. He'd be laying very far back in the cage. You'd have to, like, get in the cage. You'd have to clamber in. Ah, man. Well, let's continue with the statements and see where it wraps round to and gives us a clue. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The entire team, in perverting the course of justice. My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. We operate on a code of chivalry of sorts. You aid and abet a murderer, commit perjury, and dare to talk of chivalry. It was a matter of priorities. What? Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. My team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. I consider their conduct exemplary. Don't concede the point, Mr. Naruhodo. You mustn't let her win. I need a lawyer. I'll take that silence as tacit acceptance. Now, can we move on? The truth about the execution 10 years ago was a state secret at the highest level. I had to protect it.
Hold it!
But at what cost? Faith in Scotland Yard is going to suffer a terrible blow as a result of this. And your precious secret is out now anyway. Yes, as you say. And I take full responsibility.
Put me down, Dr. Sithe!
Surely there was some other way you could have protected the secret. By the way, I just finally got why I'm presenting and what I'm presenting. While I was talking, it suddenly came to mind. No, there really wasn't. I've done my utmost, believe me. In many ways, I respect your determination. Phew, I only froze under that cold stare as she said that. I do believe she was being genuine, though, Mr. Naruhodo. I finally get it. Why did I get it while doing other testimony that was unrelated? So that's the story. It's so simple as well. How did I blind myself on this one? She's admitted everything and revealed her full involvement in the crime. I do wonder if there could really be much more to it. Well, I don't know, but I just have a feeling. Do you, Mr. Naruhodo? The truth is, I find it strange too. How those two are reacting to this in completely opposite ways, I mean. Yes, exactly. For some reason, I feel sure they're still trying to hide something. Right, is that statement still there? The problem with this statement is corpse. That's what I'm currently thinking. I don't know why I didn't think this at all before. Right, so there would be a time delay between the actual murder taking place, the body being found. Like, so he'd have been dead for a while before everything, like, got there properly. And so his heart would have stopped pumping blood. Now, there was always, like, an extra of, like, I guess some pressure, but would the blood have even, like, spurted that much? I guess maybe it's not even that much. I don't even know. That's not exactly the heart. The heart is more to the center. Is it the fact that blood shot out quite well-ish? I don't know. It could be as simple as that, but it's Ace Attorney, and that makes me just freak out all the time. And this was also brought up really early on in everything, about, like, if Hairbrain stabbed him, it would have gone everywhere. So it's not a convincing way of covering things up in the first place. We decided the stab wound was kind of false-ish. It's like, what? Well, I've got 3 penalties. So let's go with my theory and see that I'm completely wrong.
Objection!
I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth. He was still alive, wasn't he?
What on earth is the matter, Counsel? Have you lost your tongue?
I apologize, my lord. Dr. Sithe, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation.
Out with it, my learned friend.
There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph, which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection!
Yes, we have already considered it. That's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean?
I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in this photograph would we see the alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement?
I say it's here.
Take that!
Look closely at the bloodstain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet.
And why is that significant, Counsel?
If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected.
Ah! Of course. No, that's not what happened.
Exactly, my lord. Dr. Sithe made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Hairbrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on his side after the 30-foot drop. And if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, it would have been in more even pooling. The blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see for the picture is inconceivable. Ah! Wait, how? I'm not that smart. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Sithe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of a misapprehension? Dr. Sithe, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you offered a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer.
If that is the case, what is it, man? Hey, counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Sithe's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony?
Stabbing of the victim, how she was coerced, the autopsy report? I mean, we know the autopsy report's a lie. Or, you know, it might be the truth now when I think about it. How she was coerced was the truth. So it's truly the stabbing. The answer is very simple, if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. And as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would. Which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord. Hey, look. At least I was right in the fact that he was alive, most likely.
Objection!
That's impossible. The man was dead, remember? No. That is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came round, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Sithe appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Mr. Odie Asman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain. Nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Sithe.
Order! 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 Can this possibly be true?
Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end, before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder. Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now, you're making all this up, as if I would do something like that.
Objection!
I assure you, the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean? I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asman?
Asman was involved in any number of criminal activities from coercion to theft to murder. There was no known connection to Dr. Sithe there. I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched.
True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection!
No, when you question what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. What?
What was it, counsel? Enlighten the court at once.
Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seems strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Sithe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. Iron mask, scalpels, the screwdriver. What? She was there that night, wasn't she? So she was at... Oh, I'm trying to, like, remember everything that's happened. Is it just because of this? The fact that she is linked by this? Is it because, just like, should I go with the scalpels as a link to her job as the coroner for the professor thing, of which Odie Asman basically exposed a secret that she didn't want exposed then? Because if she did this, surely there was some kind of thing towards everything. So I'm going to say... and because it's 3 options and I love middle options and everything, as we all know. I don't think it's the screwdriver. So then it comes to the eye mask and the scalpels. But I think it's more to do with her job and the more, like, the link there. You screwed something up for her way back when, didn't you? It's a scalpel. Or rather, scalpels.
Did you say scalpels?
Ah! I'm right, but why? It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor. You... Come on, out with it. It was yesterday. When we visited your laboratory. I can't remember that. Look at the big thick book here. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. What? Oh? What is it? It's clear the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... Well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
$500 scalpels a month.
At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asman's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding, tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going. Would be extremely straightforward. So, I've got to say, even though we're getting to this, and we're getting to the bottom of everything, I am going on a wing of a prayer here. Trying to discount what seems to possibly not be, and coming up with the most ridiculous thing. Isn't that very, Herlockian, we'll say? 10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, He may have well stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Sithe's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade.
A darkest secret? Good lord, you mean?
I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asman in the heart with all your might to silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever. You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years. That's what we're trying to understand. That's what the whole of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, the duology, is building towards. And the cases are getting longer, and the cases are getting harder, I say too, a little bit. A little more obtuse. As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb, the truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out. And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Sithe will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth about what happened. 10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate had over you all these years. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really? It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know? They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypothesis, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness.
Careful, Mr. Drebber.
I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it. You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim. Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asman's article deprived you of 10 years earlier. The revenge you sought didn't stop at Asman, did it? Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. If your account of those events was all true, then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Sithe, to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asman turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye. About the coroner who handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan. What a horrid tale! He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him. For revenge. and have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis. You had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man.
Lord Van Zeeks, one of Dr. Sithe.
An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber.
A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain.
Yes?
It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realize. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt.
This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. Me, this dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool. Professor. I spent my life thinking of nothing but my research, misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I. No, Professor. That's not true. What? Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing, and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame, in any way. Lord Van Zeeks! And the delusion with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices. Oh! Thank you, Balok.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes, my lord?
It is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections?
None for me, my lord. Certainly not. This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision.
It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever, with a few leaps of faith.
Oh, what's that? He's done, is he? It's all over? He's done, yeah.
I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant.
Harebrain is free to go. I've been filming a long time, my double episode by the look of it. I'll have to split it up. I didn't know if we were near the end or not, but now we are.
Court is adjourned.
However, even if we're near the end, there's still more to come. It's over. That was some trial.